astute observation. But this was clear to me when I arrived in Britain and I was looking for a place to rent, and I asked about the contracts, how are the contracts organized, and I was told all contracts are the same. There's a 1 month cancellation notice. Either the tenant, me, says I will be out in 1 month, or the landlord says he wants the property back in 1 month. 30 days. On all properties, 30 days. And this is because there's no security. People don't know what is going to happen, and everything is fluctuating and changing so quickly that it's hard for a lot of people. The banks have a lot of control over what is happening in the environments and socially. And in general, if you pick a larger organization and you stay with them for a longer period of time, there are huge advantages to doing that, and the security of that is understandable. And also, banks tend to give loan. They have a higher probability of giving a loan to an organization if it's closer to the center of a city, or another word for a city, or a town or something. Yeah. So the further you are from the center of a town, the less likely you are to get a loan from a bank, because they want you to be closer to industry and commerce, and they want you to feed into the environment. So this is part of what's causing the attraction of people into urban environments. It's just easier to get money for a place to live. It can also be much more practical because of services as well. And the madness of things like what my parents did, living in a village with no services. I mean, but it's what we wanted to do at the time. Yeah, well, that's great, but you're very, very isolated in that environment, and I think it doesn't work out very well for you in the last years of your life. In your older years, it becomes much. Well, what are you going to do when you can't drive? Right? What are you going to do when you can't drive? Yeah, tell me. You expect everyone to bring anything to you? You know, who's going to help you? It doesn't seem to be. It seems to be more of a waste, and I think you have to have the end in mind at the beginning. Not with everything, but with a lot of things, especially in business. You have to understand what is the end point. You have to understand, when is this going to be finished? When are we going to be out? When are we going to be on to the next project? Because if not, something just stays and you don't know what to do with it. It hangs around like an old girlfriend or an old boyfriend or something, right? It doesn't disappear, and you've got to be able to draw a line or to make a mark, and you have to kind of have that end point in your mind at the beginning when you do something. Like if you buy a property, it sort of has to be there in the back of your mind. Well, I know this will be good for 5, maybe 10 years, but then I will need to think about how to make the next step, and not just buy it and be like, oh, I don't know, whatever, I guess I'll just stay here forever, and that's that. And it doesn't help anyone to not have the end point in mind. That's the problem with projects in business, because it's not clearly defined. Have we reached the point that we want to reach so that we can shut this down and move on to the next thing? Yeah, and not having all these open questions about, oh, we don't know what's happening because there's no information for people because they haven't been told that, well, that's the end, that's finished. That's one of the things that Steve Jobs did when he went to Apple, was he looked at what the developers and the programmers were doing, and they were working on all these projects that were old or soon to be old and out of date, and he had to kill them all. He had to kill almost all of the projects that developers were involved in because they were not. It wasn't going anywhere, and he did this. Maybe I mentioned this before. I can't remember. He did this by having a funeral. He organized a funeral for the old technology. Yeah, seriously, a real funeral for the old technology. And they buried it. They took the old technology and they buried it in the ground in a funeral. So that all the software developers and programmers could move on.
Yeah, and next day, hall was empty.
Because a couple of gypsies came along.
Yeah, exactly.
They took everything out. Or a couple of Microsoft engineers, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it cleared the path forward. Because sometimes when you look forward and you can see everything, it's not good because you don't like what you see, or there's no creativity or inspiration, or having everything predictable is not what will keep people interested or make things exciting for people. As much as we want every day to be successful, we don't want tomorrow to be exactly the same as yesterday. And luckily we work with people who bring us different problems. So we don't have to worry about that too much. So I have to check on the beach again. 1 second.
Yeah.
To check.
Yeah. If the sea is let's say down or no deep to survive, you're.
Yeah, I can see my kids running around half naked on the beach there. It's about they have about 20 more minutes before the water gets too high.
Yes.
So I trust that my partner knows what she's doing.
If they will be late, then okay, they can.